It was April 25th, 2009, a night like any other on the Myrtle Beach Strip. Friends and neon lights, laughter carried on the breeze. But that evening held a finality no one could foresee.
I'm staying in packing and going to sleep, probably. A final message to John Greco, her boyfriend back in New York. Words meant to comfort, to reassure. Instead, they became the last flicker of contact they'd ever share. Neighbours, friends, strangers, everyone searched. But for Brittanee, the world fell disturbingly silent. 3 hours after that final text, and 13 years of unanswered questions, Brittanee's fate lay shrouded in darkness. For 13 years, no one knew where she had gone or what had truly happened. Brittanee Marie Drexel was born on October 7th, 1991, in Rochester, New York, to Dawn and John Kayaoglu. Dawn was still in her teens when Brittanee arrived. John was young too, both not married. Not long after her birth, Dawn married Chad Drexel, a former serviceman who would become both stepfather and adoptive father to Brittanee. They settled in chilly New York, a quiet suburb where Brittanee was their first child, embraced and adored. As a child, she was bright and active, her eyes alight with curiosity. She played soccer, rooted herself in community, and in high school, she blossomed amid prom nights, yearbook smiles, and friends gathered around late-night phone calls. She liked makeup, beauty trends, and dreamed of a future in cosmetology or modelling. But life bit deeper. Brittanee was born with a rare eye condition, persistent, hyperplastic primary vitreous, which untreated left her right eye blind and wandering. After multiple surgeries, she wore a contact lens to mask its drift, blending her appearance into the everyday. The lens gave her a unique look, noticeable, yet easily mistaken. The spring of 2009 was a tipping point. Local seniors from Rochester often made the pilgrimage to Myrtle Beach, a rite of passage, a whirl of bars, music, freedom. But for Dawn and Chad, it was a red flag. They refused Brittanee's request, the chaperone issue, the unknown friends, the gut instinct that something wasn't right. She asked again days later, insisting she would stay at a friend's, still denied. Brittanee was a beautiful, beautiful girl. Her smile lit up the room. When she vanished, my heart just dropped. But at 17, peer pressure and curiosity shifted the balance. She left home on April 22nd, 2009, with a small group of friends, none of whom Dawn knew, for spring break, heading for Myrtle Beach under the Louisiana sun. Carolyn unknown, parents not told. By April 23rd or early 24th, Brittanee had made her way into Myrtle Beach's nightlife. At Club Kryptonite, she crossed paths with Peter Brozowitz, a 20-year-old nightclub promoter from Rochester, well known with a VIP connection. He and Brittanee had met before. That night, their encounter was captured under flashing lights. The day after, April 25th, she met Peter again, on the beach near the Blue Water Resort. It was sunny, breezy. She ventured to retrieve a friend's shorts. Surveillance shows her arriving at the resort around 8:35 p.m. Black and white tank top, flip-flops, a beige purse over her shoulder. She left shortly after, heading back to the Bar Harbor Hotel, about 1.5 miles south, walking under streetlights and the late-night energy of Ocean Boulevard. Around 8:45 p.m., she was seen on camera leaving the Blue Water. Texting her boyfriend, John Greco, she said she was walking back. By 9:15 p.m., the messages stopped, and dread seeped in. John called friends. They didn't know where she was. He called Dawn, then Chad. Dawn's world cracked open. She had no idea Brittanee had even gone to Myrtle Beach. Panic and disbelief collided. For anyone with a pulse, it was no longer a vacation. It was a catastrophe. And that simple message, I'm staying in, packing, overnight became a haunting refrain, the echo of a life cut tragically short. The The day had been ordinary, but that night, was anything but. 17-year-old Brittanee Drexel had been in Myrtle Beach for 3 days. She hadn't planned this trip the way most teenagers would. She had begged her mother, Dawn, for permission. Dawn said no. Her instincts were sharp, her concern unshakable. There were no parents going, just a mix of friends, some older, some barely known. Too far from home, too many unknowns. But Brittanee was determined, and like many teens, restless, craving independence, she found a way. She told her mother she was staying at a friend's house nearby in Rochester. Instead, she packed her bags in secret, slipped away, and drove nearly 800 miles south with friends. By Saturday evening, Brittanee had already been to the beach, already seen the crowds, already soaked in the chaos of spring break. That night, as the sun dropped, she made a decision, a small choice at first. She wanted to walk down Ocean Boulevard to the Blue Water Resort, to visit a group of friends from Rochester, including Peter Brozowitz, a 20-year-old nightclub promoter she knew casually. It was just under a mile, 10 minutes on foot. Neon lights guided her path. At 8:33 p.m., cameras caught her stepping into the lobby of the Blue Water Resort. The footage is grainy, time-stamped, but clear enough. Brittanee walks with intent, not wandering, not afraid. She's wearing a multicolored top, black shorts and flip-flops. She looks like any other teenager on spring break. Inside, she meets her friend Jennifer to return a borrowed pair of black shorts. They talk briefly, laugh a little, normal. 10 minutes later, 8:43 p.m., she's seen leaving the resort. That is the last confirmed footage of Brittanee Drexel alive. What happened next has haunted investigators, her family, and an entire community for more than a decade. She texts her boyfriend, John Greco, back in Rochester. "I'm walking back to the hotel now." A minute later, another message. Teasing. Playful. "I'm going to Ducking Bug, you have no idea." And then, 8:58 p.m., the final message. "I'm staying in, packing, and going to sleep probably." After that, nothing. No more texts. No more calls. Her phone went dark. But her phone told a different story. It travelled farther south, away from the bright strip of Myrtle Beach, past Surfside Beach, Murrells Inlet, and Georgetown. It kept moving, into rural land, pine forests, marsh. By 11:57 p.m., the signal went dead near McClellanville, South Carolina, an hour away. It never turned back on. Her boyfriend kept texting. Friends tried calling. At first, they thought she was ignoring them. But as minutes stretched into hours, worry turned to panic. When Brittanee never returned to the Bar Harbor Hotel, her friends' unease grew. By the next morning, word reached her mother in Rochester. Dawn's worst fear, the instinct that had made her say no to the trip, had come true. "It's not like my daughter not to call me." She would have called me. She would have called her boyfriend. Search efforts began almost immediately. Police combed Myrtle Beach. Helicopters scanned from the air. K-9 units traced her scent across Ocean Boulevard. Volunteers handed out missing person flyers. Her photograph, blue eyes, brown hair with blonde highlights, just over 5 feet tall, spread across every local broadcast. But with every passing hour, the trail grew colder. Her phone was off, her bank card untouched. No surveillance after 8:43 p.m. No witnesses who could place her. It was as if she had stepped into the night and disappeared. That image, that single moment leaving the hotel lobby, would become the beginning of a mystery that lasted 13 years. And as her family fought for answers, rumors, false leads, and dead ends would only tighten the grip of despair. But the truth, hidden in plain sight, was far worse than anyone imagined. Morning came, but for Dawn Drexel, miles away in Rochester, it was already night. Her phone rang. It was Brittanee's boyfriend, John Greco. His voice carried a panic that words could barely hold. Brittanee wasn't answering calls. She wasn't returning messages. She hadn't come back to her hotel. By the time Dawn Drexel reached police, the first threads of alarm were already unraveling. The Myrtle Beach Police Department acted fast. Spring break often brought trouble. Fights, theft, even sexual assaults. But this case was different. A 17-year-old girl, states away from her mother, had simply vanished in the span of 15 minutes. The footage confirmed the story. Brittanee walked in. 10 minutes later, she walked out. She wasn't seen again. From that moment forward, the search began. Dawn immediately flew to South Carolina. "I knew something was wrong," she later said. "I just knew. She would never go this long without calling me. Never." Her mother's intuition had been right. Brittanee had told her she was spending the week at a friend's home in Rochester. She had lied to protect her chance to travel. And now Dawn carried the crushing weight of knowing her daughter was gone, in a city she had never wanted her to be in. Police launched one of the largest search operations in South Carolina's history. K-9s traced her scent through Myrtle Beach, but it vanished at the edge of Ocean Boulevard. ATVs scoured sand dunes. Helicopters swept low over the marshes of Georgetown County. Volunteers walked shoulder to shoulder through forests thick with pine and oak, hoping to find any trace, a flip-flop, a phone, a single strand of hair. The digital trail led south. Phone records showed her device moving down the coastline, eventually going dark near McClellanville, a small fishing town surrounded by dense swamps and alligator-infested waters. It was as if she had been swallowed by the land itself. Within days, Brittanee's face was everywhere. National networks picked up the story. Nancy Grace, CNN, CBS, each broadcast carried her photograph, her name. "It's not like her. Please, if anyone knows where she is, bring my daughter back." Her image, blue eyes, hair streaked with blonde highlights, became one of the most recognized missing person photos of the decade. But with the attention came pressure, and with pressure came rumors. Theories multiplied. Some whispered she'd run away. Others claimed she was trafficked. Online forums exploded with speculation. One man, an inmate in 2016, told the FBI Brittanee had been taken to a stash house in McClellanville, assaulted and killed. His story would later be proven false, but for years it fueled the darkest fears of those searching for her. Police questioned the group she had traveled with. They pressed Peter Brozowitz, the last friend, to see her. But no charges came. Leads dried up. Time stretched on. The community rallied. Vigils lit the nights. Volunteers wore bracelets with her name. Myrtle Beach, known for its bright lights and tourist rush, now carried an undertone of grief, of danger, of distrust. Her family, her grandparents, Carol and Alan, described her as their first granddaughter, a light of their lives. Each day without her became unbearable. Every search ended the same way: empty hands, broken hearts, and more questions. This was the last moment anyone saw Brittanee Drexel alive. A teenager steps away from neon lights and crowded sidewalks, disappeared without a sound. For her family, for investigators, for an entire country, the question grew louder each day. What happened in those 15 minutes? Through the silence, her mother refused to let the world forget. Dawn Drexel became a voice for the missing, a relentless advocate, pushing for answers not only for her daughter, but for countless others. The photos changed. A child's face gradually transformed into a young woman's, smiles imagined, not lived. But behind the images, Brittanee remained frozen at 17. In 2016, the FBI made a chilling announcement. They no longer believed Brittanee Drexel was missing. They now believed she had been murdered. The words shattered her family. It was no longer a question of if she would come home, it was whether she ever could. For 13 years, Brittanee's case haunted Myrtle Beach, haunted South Carolina, haunted her family. Then, May 2022, a name emerged: Raymond Moody. Moody was a registered sex offender. He had a history of crimes against women, and investigators had long considered him suspicious. But only now, with new evidence, did they close in. Moody confessed. He admitted to luring Brittanee on that April night in 2009. He admitted to kidnapping her. He admitted to ending her life. And then, he revealed where he had hidden her. Investigators unearthed skeletal remains, buried deep in the South Carolina woods. DNA confirmed the unthinkable. They belonged to Brittanee Drexel. After 13 years, the search was over. Dawn Drexel, who had spent more than a decade begging for answers, finally had one. Her daughter would not be coming home, but at last, she was found. Moody was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Justice, in the coldest form, had been delivered. For 13 years, the truth lay hidden in the woods of South Carolina. For 13 years, Brittanee's name echoed in prayers, vigils, and unanswered questions. And now, at last, the silence has been broken.